Good afternoon, Miss Weimer Skirch. Miss Kaylee, are you there?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and you're coming in loud and clear. Thank you.
Right.
And you should be able to see everything that's happening here and give your presentation when it's time.
Okay, that's great. The presentation, if the board has it in their packets, that's great. If they don't, I'm also happy to screen share if you give me the ability to.
You got it. I think they have the packet because we don't have the Zoom up on the screen.
Okay. Oh, that totally works for me too. Okay.
The pricing.
Yes.
General obligation bond.
General obligation bond, is that it?
Yeah, the general obligation bond and education technology note, final pricing results.
Oh, okay, yeah, we'll be projecting that on the big screen for them.
Awesome.
So
okay.
We'll follow along with your presentation.
No, I appreciate it. Again, it should take underneath 10 minutes. That'll be pretty quick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Kaylee, quick question. Is there another person from your organization joining us by the last name of Jesse? Michael Jesse?
Yes, that is my analyst, my supporting analyst.
Very good. I'm going to go ahead and admit them into the meeting as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Michael, you've joined the meeting. Can you test your audio and just say hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Very good. And if you could speak up just a little bit more, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Test one.
Audio check. Audio check.
Test, test. One, two, test, test. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us through our streaming, and thank you those of you who are joining us live here in the boardroom. I'm going to go ahead and ask Ms. Delgado to, actually, let me call this meeting to order. So today is September the 5th, Thursday, 2024. So now I call this special school board meeting to order, and the time is 4:38. Can you please take roll call, Ms. Delgado?
Ms. Flores,
Present.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Present.
Ms. Murillo,
Present. And then that
Miss-
will stop, well, go ahead, sorry, Mr. Lira. Go ahead.
Mr. Lira, Mr. Morales,
And that's where actually, we won't include him until he's sworn in. Correct. Okay, so we do have a quorum established. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. We do have 2 action items this evening for the special school board meeting. The first action item is 2A, consideration and approval of a resolution approving a lease purchase arrangement. Just a reminder, board members, that we do need a first motion and a second. Okay, Mr. Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, thank you for joining us this evening. We do have our partners from RBC. What I would want you to know is the first action item that you have is the resolution, which ensures that all the legalities are covered, having the presentation in an open meeting, and those components of it. And the second is the agreement. I think it's Keesley that might move with RBC. She's online with us.
Yes, thank you for that introduction, Superintendent. Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board. My name is Kaylee Weinriskirch with RBC Capital Markets. We are your municipal advisors, assisting with both your ETN and GEO bond issuances. So before we get to the consideration of the action items, though, I do have a brief presentation for you that goes over how the ETN and the GEO bond sale went. So without further ado, we'll just jump right into it on our first slide here. So on our first slide, we just have a brief transaction summary of how the general obligation bond sale went. The district sold $9.5 million with the New Mexico Finance Authority. We set the rate a couple days ago on September 3rd. The maturities range from 2025 through 2029. The true interest cost came in at just 2.5%. We're very pleased with this result, considering that the 10-year Treasury is currently trading at around 3.9%. The total interest cost came in to only be $327,000 for the total repayment to be just above $9.8 million. Due to the short term nature of this issuance, it is a non-callable bond. Closing is scheduled for October 11th, which is when funds will be available for the district to spend on voter authorized projects. On our second slide, we just have an overview of the debt service schedule of this issuance. So you can see that starting on August 15th of 2025, the district will pay off $7.5 million of this $9.5 million issuance. We are able to utilize the district's excess cash balance to structure the majority of this loan to be due within the first year of issuance. You know, we do this in order to both soak up that cash balance, but then also to be able to structure an accelerated payment schedule that provides interest cost savings too. Continuing on onto our third slide, we now are looking at the education technology note sale, which is the reason why we're here tonight. So the district sold $2.7 million back on August 29th with the state treasurer's office. Tonight is the approval date of those final terms of the ETN. With that approval, closing will be scheduled for October 9th, which is when funds will be available for the district to spend on its education technology needs. The nature of this ETN is that it's structured as an overnight loan. So the day after closing on October 10th, this ETN will be completely paid off and off the books. The TIC came in at 5.4%, but since this issuance is only outstanding for one day, the total interest cost came out to only be $401. On my final slide, we have the payment schedule of this issuance. As I mentioned, again, the ETN, it matures within 1 day. So the day after closing, this will be completely paid off and off the books. With that, I'll stop there and I pause to see if anyone has any questions for me about, the ETN sale, the GEO sale, or any of the documents in front of you tonight.
Are there any questions, comments, concerns? No. Okay. With that being said, thank you, ma'am, for your presentation. I would
Thank you.
like to make a motion that we approve the resolution approving a lease purchase arrangement. Do I hear a second?
I make a second.
Second by Ms. Murillo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? She's. Okay. So. Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to action item 2B, consideration and approval of a certificate purchase agreement. Superintendent Dempsey. Oh, she's the presentation was already. Did she
Madam
need-
President, board members, I'm not sure that there's an actual presentation on this part. Keesley, did you have additional
No.
information for the board?
No, no, I didn't have any additional information. Again, all the resolutions involved in tonight's special board meeting are just related to the education technology note.
Okay, and I'm seeing that this does not require a second motion, correct?
I believe they usually do. To be safe, I would prefer if the board could please have a second motion.
Okay, we can do that. Okay, so with that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve the certificate purchase agreement. Do I hear a second?
I make a second.
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Ms. Rodriguez. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much, ma'am, once again for your presentation.
Thank you. Should you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to myself or any of my colleagues. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and with that being said, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Ms. Maria has made a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? We are now adjourned. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for this special school board meeting. Thank you.
And just a reminder for those of you who are joining us live on YouTube, the regularly scheduled board meeting will begin promptly at 5 p.m.
Good evening, everybody. Once again, thank you to all of you who are joining us today, this evening in person, and then also thank you to those of you who are joining us online. And just a reminder to the audience, if you would like to address the board during open forum, make sure you get one of these forms, fill it out, and go ahead and give it to Ms. Delgado. Thank you. With that being said, I now call this regular Gadsden Independent School District School Board meeting to order for Thursday, September 5th, 2024, and the time is 5:02. Ms. Delgado, can you please take roll call?
Ms. Flores,
Present.
Mr. Lira, Ms. Murillo,
Present.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Present.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So we have established quorum. Thank you so much. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the New Mexico flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the State of Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among the Mexican cultures. Secretary Murillo, can you please read our mission statement?
The Gadsden Independent School District will provide diverse educational opportunities that empower students to be successful in an ever-changing world. El Distrito Escolar Independiente de Gadsden brindará diversas oportunidades educativas que capacitarán a los estudiantes para tener éxito en un mundo cambiante.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we go on to the agenda, I'm going to go ahead and invite the gentleman that's here, our special guest this evening, for the swearing in of our new board member, Andrew Morales. Did you need to say something, Mr. Dempsey? Okay. I'm actually going to step down so I could take pictures, so that's okay.
Gentlemen, my name is Daniel Carranco. I'm city clerk and chaplain for the city of Sunland Park. Mr. Morales, it's a pleasure to be here to conduct your swearing-in ceremony. Would you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? For the state of New Mexico, County of Doña Ana, state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of New Mexico, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of school board member according to the best of my ability. So help me God. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord send His Holy Spirit upon you to assist you in the conduct of your new role. God bless you. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you and congratulations, Mr. Morales. Okay, moving on to Superintendent Dempsey's district updates and recognitions. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, our first item this evening that we have is recognition of Daniel Castillo, who was a board member here for Gadsden ISD. He was appointed by former Secretary of Education, Dr. Veronica Garcia. He served both on state and county-wide advisory committees, and I believe, depending on the math of it, almost 19 years. And that is an amazing feat. We appreciate his dedication. We had a little ceremony for him earlier today, and got to share some of we almost got him into a Santa Teresa shirt, but I think it was burning his shoulder, and so he was quickly got that removed from him. But we want to recognize him, and I think it's fitting to have Ms. Delgado help me because he's always been, Mr. Castillo was one that supported every member of Gadsden ISD, not just a few chosen individuals. He supported everyone. So, Ms. Delgado, if you'll help me, and board, if we'll get a picture. His favorite part is a picture, right? Yes.
I told you not to vayas, Mr. Danny. Okay, so on behalf of the school board, Mr. Lira, myself, Ms. Murillo, Ms. Rodriguez, your former colleagues, we did purchase you a gift card. And I thought that it was important, to support a local business. I'm not sure on the name. I bet you know it. It's, I hope I get it right. It's Rolling Smokes. Is that correct? So I went out there. I've never eaten there, so I need to go back, Danny. And so I said, I need a gift card. And they're like, we don't do gift cards. We do paper. And I'm like, okay. I was thinking of paper certificate. So this is actually the gift card, okay? So, and this is the most interesting gift card that I've given or purchased. So it says Rolling Smoke Barbecue. It's a $100 gift card. It says first and last barbecue stop in Texas. And then the owner, Mr. Carrasco, I believe, signed it. What's your name, Mr. Castillo? And he actually, to make sure that this is official, you see, que son cuatro manos stamped, what I believe with grasa de barbecue. And so I was telling Martha earlier that we have little ones that like to eat paper, ¿verdad? Kindergartners. And I was almost tempted to eat this because it was smelling good. So here's this, and thank you, Mr. Carrasco. He actually also sent you, you get a T-shirt, y un cup, Danny. Okay, so go out there, enjoy it with your family, con Miss Sarah and your kids. And I said, why if he can't spend it all in one night? He just says, I'll just give you another paper, Danny, okay? So, so here you go, sir.
So this isn't exactly the way, we all knew the day was coming, but this isn't exactly the day I had it, the way I had it planned. But first of all, to Sarah, my family, thank you for, no, not thank you, you're the one that put me here. So, but thank you for supporting me. To the residents of Anthony, again, thank you for your trust and support. To the staff, I truly mean this. You guys are the ones that had my kids. You were the ones that instilled the love and knowledge in them. Because of you and Sarah's genetics, they're all doing well. And I appreciate the friendships that I've made in the short time I was here. Well, I'm not gonna miss the politics again. I'm gonna miss the friendships. And to the board, I wish I had some knowledge, wisdom, even advice, but I don't. But I'll leave you with these words. You don't have to take pictures, but you should, right? You don't have to go to training, but you should. You have to. If you want to make anybody and everybody accountable here in the district, you first have to be accountable. We have to be knowledgeable in what we're doing. Making decisions from the heart is good because, we want to see the goodness in people. But when a heart is hurt, it goes after revenge, and that's not right for either party, for either the district or you guys. Your time is valuable, but so is everybody's. So make sure, again, that the district is in your capable hands. I'm preaching to the choir. You guys know exactly what you need to do. It's not your job to fix the district. It's your job to make it. You make sure that it keeps going in the right direction. Mr. Morales, your colleagues here, they can tell you, Gadsden has been the talk of the town here recently for a reason. Make it be the talk of the town for that same reason, not for bullshit. So thank you. God bless. I want to raise your numbers. Have fun.
Have a good evening, Mr. Castillo. Okay, moving on to our next agenda item is 3B student. Mr. Dempsey, that's your role. Sorry.
Yeah, that's
Go ahead,
okay.
sir.
Madam President, our next item, our student representative, we have David Garcia Cervantes, who's a 12th grader at Alta Vista Early College High School.
Hello. Okay. Good evening, Madam Board President Flores, school board members, Superintendent Dempsey, and guests. My name is David Garcia. I'm a junior at Alta Vista Early College High School, and it is my pleasure to report the latest on my school. First of all, let me report on all the travels that will happen and have happened. Freshmen Adeline Gamboa and Rogelio Betancourt traveled to Albuquerque for a MESA award banquet where they were awarded 3rd place in last year's competition as they were 8th graders. There are 3 upcoming events for MESA in the Las Cruces area in October and November that Ms. Campos and her students will be attending. Ms. Campos will also be taking her 10th grade biology class to Carlsbad Caverns to learn about life in the caves. Senior Alexa Chavez is the New Mexico State BPA president and has been busy recruiting members both at Alta Vista and local area high schools. She presented at Chaparral High School this week and did a fantastic job explaining BPA to close to 100 students. People that attended described her as professional, knowledgeable, confident, friendly, and Alexa is definitely an asset to BPA New Mexico. We are proud of her, and additionally, Alta Vista BPA will be hosting this year's BPA regionals at New Mexico State University. National Honor Society will have their ceremony on September 23rd. Sophomores have started their first DACC classes, being College Success and Music Appreciation. As part of their DACC Music Appreciation class, students will be attending El Paso Symphony to see the great Italian arias on October 18th. Their instructor, Mr. White, is part of the orchestra. We will be commemorating Hispanic Heritage Month the week of September 16th. We will be having dress-up days, fun lunch activities such as piñatas, and pin the tail on the donkey. Among many other things, we will end the week with a fiesta dance on Friday, September 20th. Lastly, we have new additions to our school faculty. We have a new math teacher, Candice Warren, and our physical education teacher, Frank Jimenez. Also, our shared security guard, Arturo Watkins, has been reassigned as full-time to AVEX. Students, parents, and AVEX staff appreciate the added security as well as the EMT background, being that Alta Vista does not have a full-time on-site nurse. We also have a new principal, Ms. Adia Getzler, who is here with us. Ms. Getzler has begun several campus improvements and has many more on the way. We have several rooms painted and new filtered water fountains installed. We anticipate more painting, new whiteboards, storage cabinets, charging towers, and a new security fence to be installed soon. She informed parents of this during her first coffee with the principal on August the 27th. Ms. Gensler also met with student leader representatives to gain student insight on ways to improve Alta Vista. They will represent their clubs and organizations and be the voice of Alta Vista, promoting student-led positive changes and decisions for administration approval. In closing, it has been my pleasure to have shared about my school, Alta Vista Early College High School. As a student of Alta Vista, I want to express my gratitude and appreciation for this excellent opportunity. As I begin my journey to higher education here, the college experiences that I will have at Alta Vista help me in the future field of mechanical engineering and business. Thank you, school board, superintendent, and Gadsden community for your continued support.
Thank you, David. Good to see. Okay, moving on to board member reports. I'm going to go ahead and begin with Secretary Murillo.
Good evening, everybody. Short welcome, Mr. Andrew, for being part of the board. Danny left, but I'm going to text him and tell him to go back and go at 5:19 just to tell him thank you. I will be missing the fights. As all of you guys know, we will fight publicly, but it was a tough love. And like I told him, you prepare me because now I can deal with difficult people and I mean, there's nobody like Danny. Mr. David, thank you for being here. As I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm one of the board members here that I'm always asking, bring us the bad too, don't just bring us the positive stuff. We want to know what's going on too, and the negative. And then you're welcome to stay here throughout the meeting because I feel that we make important decisions that affect your campus as well throughout the school year. And so we want you to be part of those conversations. I feel like you have an important role. And then, I don't want to put you on the spot, but we would like to, for you to be part of the discussions. Obviously, you don't vote, but I really like to push for more student involvement, especially with my fellow board members. And other than that, I think that is it. I will just mention that I do read all the emails that I receive because I've been getting calls. I send you an email. I do read them. I don't respond because I send them to Mr. Dempsey or to Mr. Dempsey and to Ms. Flores for them to be aware, and then they take the lead. But the reason that I don't respond is because of that, but I do read them. I do bring them to their attention. The incident that happened this morning at Santa Teresa Middle School, I have to say that I'm really proud of our law enforcement and the relationship that we have with them because they responded so quickly. I saw a parking lot full of parents, demanding, but I think I have a son in the district too, and I think it's important that we let them do their job. I feel like we're more in the way than helping out, and I understand we all want answers. the phone was ringing all morning, and so if it was like that for me, I can't even imagine for Mr. Dempsey or the staff. And so I just want to thank all of you guys for taking care of our kids. You know, I feel confident that they are in good hands, and the relationships that we have with everybody, you know, Border Patrol, the Sunland Park Police Department. I even saw a video of at the SRO at Santa Teresa High School playing with a drum line. And I just think that community involvement is so important for us. And so I will post it on Facebook because they said, you are not posting the updates. Well, I'm posting what I think is important. I post the good, the ugly. I post it all for knowledge for the community. And so I just ask for a lot of patience, and the more that you email me, I will continue to read them. I won't respond. So I just want to make it very clear that that is something that I'm choosing to do. I'm sure that I can, but I don't want to add more than it's not my place. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Rodriguez. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for being here, and definitely hearing everything that you bring from the school. That's appreciated, and definitely if there's any questions, any input, it's always welcome. And same, welcome here. It's greatly appreciated to have people that show interest, right, to be part of the board. It is very difficult, but it's a pleasure to do that, to be part of the board. And I think I did it with Arlene on asking Mr. Castillo to watch the video. I wish I could have told him. I mean, I've talked to him, but publicly, I just want to say, you know, when I used to be on that side, I would always judge Mr. Castillo, and I'm going to be very honest, right? And I told him, I said, you know, you weren't my favorite. But then when I was on this side, I saw the beauty of a gentleman that is extremely wise, very knowledgeable, and very has a big heart. You know, he has done many great things, and I learned to really appreciate that, and I take my hat off for everything that he did. And, you know, always quiet, always sitting in the back, but always absorbing everything and letting us know, you know, what was appropriate and what wasn't. So that, you know, from him, I learned a whole lot, and it's going to be quite a journey, right, without him by my side telling me, hey, you know, he doesn't say a lot of words, but you know what he means. So thank you, Mr. Castillo. Thank you for all the years that you were here with us, and I know you're still going to be involved, and maybe not as much. And please enjoy your time, because it is, you know, doing this is very time consuming, but I think all of us do it with pleasure, you know, and it's because we want to be part of your team, right? And I always say we are a team. In order for Gadsden to work, we all need to work together. And so, yes, staff, thank you for everything that you do. And then just a friendly reminder, you know, for the parents, please participate during coffee with the superintendent and coffee with the principal. You know, that's a way for you to be involved. Don't wait until there's something negative happening. Instead, be proactive and be visible. So that's a way to be informed of what is happening within your children's school. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to Board Member Morales.
Thank you. It's been about 15 minutes since I've been on the board. So my report is going to be really brief. First, Mr. Garcia, thanks for that input, and I agree with Member Murillo that when you do come and give those reports, it's great to hear all the positive stuff that's happening in your school. As a board member, what I'm interested in as well is, you know, what can we do to improve the experiences for the kids in your school? How can we expand on the opportunities and, you know, think outside of the box, talk to your classmates and bring it to us, so maybe we can have some action items that you can take back to the school and say, hey, I put this forth, you know, so I would appreciate that as well. The other thing is that great appreciation for Mr. Castillo. I think that he was a board member, and then I was the board member, and then he was a board member, and now I'm the board member again. So we've kind of shifted back and forth. And this is the first time I've actually met him, you know, so it's kind of odd. But yeah, it was kind of odd. But anyway, thank you for the swearing in. Thank you for letting me be a part of this group, and I look forward to moving forward and supporting all the staff and the students at the Gadsden Independent School District.
Thank you, Mr. Morales. I just want to start off my report by thanking Mary Lou Delgado, and thank you, Mr. Dempsey, for making the arrangements for Mr. Castillo's little reception that we had. We did have we were blessed to eat some really good spicy enchiladas this evening that were prepared by Mr. Sapien's culinary students. So thank you to the culinary stars. It was delicious. I had I think that's tres leches, so that it was delicious. Thank you very much. And thank you for making the arrangements, Mr. Dempsey, so that Mr. Morales could also be sworn in this evening. Thank you so much. Talking about Mr. Castillo, Danny, I'm going to miss you. I know that we didn't always agree on everything, but, you know, the gentleman, you know, hardly spoke, but when he spoke, he spoke. And so, you know, I agree with Claudia. You know, he was always constantly reminding us, you know, stay in your lane. And so, you know, I appreciate that advice from him. And so thank you for driving us up. He was our chaperone, getting us to the conferences. Thank you so much. Thank you. ¿Qué más? I mean, I'm going to miss you, Danny. And so thank you for all you do. I think we'll probably be seeing each other. I've sometimes te he rebasado when you're going on your Pacific Railroad truck on the way to me to Las Cruces. And then you're always going to be Buzz Lightyear to me with that orange outfit to infinity and beyond. So I will miss you, Danny. And God bless you, mijo. Sir. And thank you, Sarah, for lending them to us and for encouraging him. Thank you. What else? So I wanted to also just, as you know, sports are in full season right now for the fall sports. It's for those of you who are Panther alumni. On Friday, it's going to be homecoming. So join Ms. Legareta and her football team out there as they take on the Clint, I don't know the Clint what, but I know it's Clint High School. And so I wish you the best of luck. I was going to go, but I'm like, no, voy a ir, Ms. Legareta, because I'm going to go support my son. Acá en Chaparral High School, we face off Santa Teresa High School. But best of luck to the Panthers. I hope you all win, okay? And I think we're going to win. We've started off a good season. Talking about Chaparral, I'm very happy to report. Last Friday, I went to the Chaparral High School versus Hatch game, and we only lost by 2 points. So there is hope for the Chaparral Lobos. You know, we're getting better, and definitely, you know, our C team, junior varsity kiddos, they're doing very well. Right now, we're undefeated. Last week, we beat Hatch, and then yesterday we beat Santa Teresa. And I do want to mention that I did notice Ms. Suggs, I'm not sure if she's out there. You know, thank you so much, principals, Ms. Suggs. She was out there supporting her kids. That means a lot. At least it means a lot to me. I think it means a lot to parents, seeing principals go out there and supporting the kids, whether it's sports, whether it's academic activities. You know, as a kid, I value seeing my principals being out there and supporting. You know, that shows that we care. And I will always, I mean, I love over there, I'm saying no puedo ver, but I think I see Ms. Legareta. I love that, you know, she high fives the kids when they're done, and the kids love her. So that is awesome to see. So keep supporting your kiddos, principals, whether you're elementary, middle school, or high school. And then I'm gonna piggyback on what I think all 3 board members said is to Mr. David. Thank you so much for your presentation this evening. Not only you, but whoever's listening out there, the kids that come, our students that come and represent. Yes, definitely, we want to celebrate with you, your celebrations, but also, you know, we want to hear your concerns and, you know, be ready to bring not only the concerns, but possible solutions to those concerns would be awesome. And so, you know, obviously, you know, work it out with your teachers, with your principals. They're there to listen. But yes, the board would also like to hear, you know, those concerns and celebrations too. Okay? And let's see. I think that concludes my report for this evening. Okay, moving on to item 5 on the agenda, the human resource report. That is there just for public knowledge. No action is required on behalf of the board. Manda? Okay. Next is item 6, which is agenda.
Madam President, I do have a request. I want to make a motion to change items A, item C, and item 8E to rename them item 10C, 10D, and 10E under action items.
Okay, so Mr. Morales has made a motion to move item from the consent agenda, item 8A, 8C, and 8E, so that it would become, as he stated, an action item. Before I ask for a motion, well, he's made the motion. Do I do the other motion, sir, to change the title? Or we can approve this first, and then we make the second motion to make the correction on the title of the action item?
Correct, Madam President. So you would take a vote on his motion,
Okay.
and then you would move forward to the next.
Okay, perfect, okay. So, like Mr. Morales says, he's made a motion to move those 3 items to become action items. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion carries. So we're gonna go and move those items, okay? I would like to now make a motion that we need to make amendment and editing to the title in action item. So action item 10A currently says proposed lease. So I'm making the motion that the title be amended to proposed easement.
Madam President, that's action item, we're looking at 10B.
What did I say? Okay, 10B.
10B.
10B, thank you, sir. 10B, to make that amendment title change to utility, proposed utility easement. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Going back to the consent agenda, which now only include, to item 7. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda as modified.
Okay. Mr. Morales has made a motion to accept the consent agenda as modified. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now the minutes, yes. Okay. I would like to make a motion that we accept the regular school board minutes for August 22nd, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now moving to consent agenda. Since now we only have 8B, 8D, 8F, 8G, and 8H, are there any questions, comments, or concerns regarding the consent agenda of those listed? No? With that being said, do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda with items B, D, F, G, and H.
Okay, Ms. Rodriguez has made a motion, as she stated, to accept the items as she stated for the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to open forum, Ms. Delgado, do we have any speakers that would like to address the board this evening?
Madam President, we have none.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to action items, we do have 2 this evening. Our first one is action item 10A.
Open forum.
Yes, actually, yes, because we added 3, we have 5 this evening. So the first one is going to be 10A, review redistricting maps and provide dates for community meetings. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, are we on 10A, which was review of redistricting maps? I just want to make sure, because I thought our naming got a little off, but.
Yeah, because I believe he said.
Did
that
we move consents to A, B, and C, or did we move those to the lower? Where do you want to deal with those?
We moved them to the lower.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Madam President, board members, with a new board member, I want to make sure we get up to speed on our redistricting project. So, couple of the factors. We've talked about redistricting many times. We had some work sessions, regular board meetings. We were given a proposal of 5 different maps, possible maps. Board members had an opportunity to review those and whittle those down to 3. Now, at that point, we paused because we knew we were going to have a new board member come on. And I want to give the same board member, I want to treat him identical to how we've done each board member. So what I've done is I forwarded his address to the gentleman who is creating the maps for us, and he's making sure that of the 3 options, Mr. Morales' address is in District 4, and that was done for each board member prior to that. So we want to make sure we give him that same opportunity, And then once we have those confirmed maps, we'll get those out to community. What I'd like to do then with those maps, and my plan with the community, is we want to get some community input to feed back to you on which of those maps they feel best represents Gadsden, okay? And all those maps can be found on our district website under the school board piece, right? Under school board, under the agendas and those options. I won't do the community meetings until I get the new maps, but we'll have those very quickly, okay? The community meetings are already scheduled because we don't want to wait too long. As we move closer to an election, we want to make sure we get this done. And so each of you should have received one of these. It's an invitation to community meetings, and they're all listed there as well. So we want to make sure you have those on your calendar. The goal was to have at least one community meeting in each district, and during that time, I'll have a coffee with the superintendent, so I'll talk about redistricting there as well. Questions about the process? One thing I want the board to all understand about redistricting is there will be some people who voted in one district, and then when we change this, they will be voting in another. And sometimes that feels a little bit awkward for those voters, and so we're going to work really hard to try to get that information to them, give them an opportunity to give some input. Any questions?
Madam President.
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Dempsey, can you elaborate on the time frame that the redistricting should be voted on, the anticipation, and implemented?
Yes, sir. Terrific question, Madam President, board members. In my mind, I'm trying to get either the last board meeting in September or the first in October to have it complete. And I know it's a tight time frame, but if I let it go any further, then we're already really getting into November, which is the election cycle. And so the goal being to try to get it done prior to the next election so that then we can get information out to individuals. Sometimes I think I've found is as we get closer to the election, it's on people's minds. And so we can kind of sometimes get them to pay attention a little bit more because they realize, oh, something's changing. And I'm gonna vote a certain, in a certain district. So I think the timing of it's good. We just don't want to cram it too far or too close to that election. I don't know how everybody feels about that.
Can I continue? I have another question. The redistricting, how often does that happen? And
Madam President, terrific question. Usually about every 10 years, and it's along the lines of the census. We paused a little bit in Gadsden because we had a GO bond election come up. And so we could have done this a year ago. I decided to pause for that year to get through that election so that we had this time to get to work on it.
that's a long pause. The census it's every 10 years, correct?
Correct, and it really, we would have done it last year, so it was 1 year. It was a 1 year pause.
Okay, so typically, since it's every 10 years, is this going to put us back on track to do the redistricting as the state does every 10 years? Are we going to get back on schedule and wait 5 years and do it again? Or are we
Madam Board Member, Madam President, board members, it typically should be every 10 years, and you have to look at your communities to see what has changed. And I think, some communities in New Mexico, they may look at redistricting every 10 years, but really no change occurs. And in ours, there is significant change this go around. And because of that significant change, we want to make sure we get that addressed. The board doesn't have to wait 10 years. If they feel like there's a significant change, the board could redistrict sooner than 10 years. But there's a cost and expense to it as well. So that's something the board could choose to do if they wanted to.
Thank you, Mr. Dempsey.
Madam President.
Go ahead, ma'am.
So I guess I have a little bit of a concern there with the new maps that will be presented by the gentleman that did the analyzing, because the ones, we had already agreed that it was going to be 3 that were going to be presented during the community meetings, right? And from what I gather, obviously I don't know the exact areas, but it seems like there is going to be change, right? There has to be because Mr. Morales, I'm sorry, I was going to say
No
Martinez. Mr. Morales and there will be a conflict there. So that means that once he does look through all of them, then he's going to have to propose other ones. But by that time, will we have an opportunity to, because we went to, like I said, it was a total of 6, then we went down to 3, but now it might be a totally different thing. So before taking it to the community, how are we going to address that?
Madam President, board members, what I've asked to be done is ensure that all board members are residents is included in their district with all options, all 5 that we originally provided. What I would say to your question is if there's significant change in the 3 that were selected, I think we may have to pause and come back as a group. Once I see those, I think I can probably, and I'll get those all to you as soon as I have them. I don't have them today. But as soon as I have them, I'll get them to you. If we think there's significant change, I don't think there is. But it's hard for me without a mapping tool to drill down exactly. I don't think it's going to be a significant change. I really don't. Because really all we're adding is ensuring that Mr. Morales' address is included in District 4. And I believe it is. As I look at them, I believe it already is. I don't think it's going to take much, but I want to be sure before we take the next step. So if what I think is true, I'll report to you. I'll get you copies of them. Now, if there's significant change, then we may have to extend our timeline. We may have to pause for a minute, maybe do a work session to spend a little bit of time back in them to make sure we're all comfortable with them because, as was stated, there will be changes. The pockets of Santa Teresa and significantly in Chaparral, to balance our voter base, it will create a change in every district.
So that was action item 10A. Do I hear a motion?
Madam President, board members, I brought it as an action item because I didn't know if the board would want to take action. I'm not sure tonight that there is action to be taken, but I wanted to be sure you had if you had a directive for me, that we had it in a place that I could move forward with. I don't feel like there's a directive at this point. So at this point, yeah, you could just table the item. We'll continue to talk about it and have conversation, but I think I have everything I need to bring back to you.
Well, with that being said, I would like to table action item 10A, review redistricting maps and provide dates for community meetings.
Okay. Ms. Murillo has made a motion to table action 10A as she stated. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Moving on to action item 10B. Proposed easement on the southwest corner of the Gadsden Administrative Complex property. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Cadena will present this item.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Superintendent Dempsey. I have before you an action item for the granting the utility easement to El Paso Electric on the southwest corner of here at the GAC. It is adjacent to the previous easement you granted a couple of months ago to CRUA, and it's for El Paso Electric to be able to be adjacent to that utility easement. I stand for questions.
Questions, comments, or concerns for Ms. Cadena? Okay. That being said, there's no questions, ma'am. So I'd like to make a proposal, make a motion that we accept action item 10B, the proposed easement on the southwest corner, to approve the proposed easement on the southwest corner of the Gadsden Administrative Complex property. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to discussion items for this evening. Actually, no. And I made my arrows and I still didn't pay attention here. Okay, so we actually have the next action item, which is 10C, donation to the Santa Teresa High School CTE CJ, I believe criminal justice use police vehicle donated by Sunland Park Police Department. And that motion was made by Mr. Morales. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor.
Well, I appreciate everybody's consideration for me as I'm trying to get more familiar with all the stuff that's going on in the school. The reason that I asked for this action item, the other ones, is so I could learn a little bit more. In reading all the information that was provided to us, I think that it's this is one of the items that we should really give recognition to the person responsible for securing that donation. And it'll give me an opportunity to learn more about that program that's happening and see how we can support more action like that. Whoever, there's a person that's named in the paperwork, but that person really needs to be commended for building communication and relations with people in the community and being able to secure that vehicle.
Madam President, board members, I believe it looks like Mr. Wogomuth has some additional information that can help the board.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, just to clarify for you, the gentleman that did sign that is the criminal justice teacher at Santa. I'm Nick Wogomuth, the secondary director for secondary schools. I supervise and support the CTE programs throughout the district. My apologies. And the gentleman who did reach out is Mr. Ricardo Rodriguez. He's the CTE criminal justice teacher at STHS, former law enforcement. Does a great job reaching out. So I'll make sure that what you've expressed here as a board is communicated to him regarding the appreciation for creating the partnerships. And as we move through this project and we get this prepared, we'll make sure we can highlight that outcome for that program as well as other ones throughout the year.
Thank you.
Madam President, and just a reminder, that is an action item.
Do I hear a motion for action item 10C?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to accept item 10C.
Okay, Mr. Morales has made a motion to accept action item 10C. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to action item 10D, Fund 27183, New Mexico Grown Initial Bar. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Martinez or Ms. Cadena might be helping us with this item. That makes sense.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Superintendent Dempsey. I believe Mr. Morales, and welcome.
Thank you.
You asked for information on this item as well. The New Mexico Grown Initiative or grant, it pairs farmers, ranchers, food co-ops with school districts, with daycares, et cetera, to be able to provide locally grown New Mexico food to these agencies. So we received a grant of, I believe, $422,000. I'm sorry, 102,000. And so it doesn't carry for a lot of, 100,000 is not a lot of money when you think of it, but we do. In the past, we've used local, and not so much local, but New Mexico. We have the Anthony Youth Farm, which is one of them, La Semilla, those are local to this area, and then we have C4 Enterprises, which I think is from Tierra Maria, and we have Red Dock Farms from Belen that we've used in the past.
May I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'm curious as to whether this program that New Mexico Grown has any affiliation with the FFA program in our schools. Is there any type of connection or communication that happens with them, or could there be?
Possibly, sir. In the past, it hasn't, and I apologize. I need to also introduce Ms. Sandra Almeraz. She is the Director of Student Nutrition, which is one of my departments. She's new. She's been on the job like 2 weeks.
Oh,
But
congratulations.
right. And she has been involved in the department as the finance coordinator. I don't think we've done anything with the.
No, it could happen if it's permitted, but so far we haven't. We usually just promote the local items to the line for the kids, so they know what they're eating is locally grown from New Mexico.
And we could possibly form a partnership, but I know that NewMexicoGrown.org does have like a specific application for the providers, people that want to be providers. So we can inquire if you'd like and see what steps the FFA would have to take.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any further questions, comments, concerns? No. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we accept the action item 10C Fund 27183, New Mexico Grown Initial Bar. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? A motion carries. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next action item, 10E, Fund 28151, Resource for School Health Initial Bar. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, I believe Ms. Martinez and possibly Ms. Cregan will help us with this item.
This Resource for School Health Initiative is a grant, and the purpose of this grant is for the prevention of COVID and communicable disease. As I understand it, this fund would be used to retain current staffing levels for nurses and health assistants, establish emergency medication programs, and relocating of a nursing office.
Madam President, may I ask a question? So with the funding, when would it be available and be implemented?
The funding was actually given to us last year. There was an application, and so the money has been upfronted. The reason for this bar is we need to establish budget authority. So the money is already in the bank. What we're coming to you for is to actually establish budget authority to be able to expend the remaining balance on this funds.
Can you remind me what the total in the budget was? And so has that money already been spent?
Part of the money has been spent and claimed. So the carryover balance is $278,119.04.
Okay, and so what's the next step for you to, I mean, if you have a carryover?
So the next step is if you would approve, then we could budget these funds, and then we can actually, with the remaining monies, we would be paying out stipends to our nurses and nurse assistants.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion for action item 10E?
I make a motion for action item 10E to fund 28151 Resource for School Health Initiative Bar.
Okay, Mr. Morales has made a motion to accept action item 10E as he's just stated. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much for your presentation, ladies. Okay, now we can go to our discussion items. So the first one is 10A, proposal for renew of lease for the Vado Dunbar Elementary School with Vado Historical Society. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Cadena will present this item.
You're going to see a lot of me today. Good afternoon, Board President and board members, Mr. Dempsey. So the Dunbar Elementary, for those of you that aren't familiar, is the little old red brick building that's across from the Vado Elementary in Vado. It's on Holguin Drive. It was constructed in 1926, and it started off as a school for the black residents of Vado because there was a colony there, and it was a segregated school. So Gadsden acquired this property, and in about 1958, it leased the property to Vado Mutual Domestic Water. And then in 2011, the GISD board transferred that to the newly formed Vado Historical Society. And the board of the Vado Historical Society is present in the back row here. And so they are asking, we need to renew their lease. And we've been converting all our leases to month leases. However, they are requesting, if possible, and they do at this time sublease to the Doniana Head Start. Doniana Head Start occupies part of it, and then the Vado Historical Society occupies the other half of the building. So they're asking to please consider a long-term lease, 25 or 50 years again, and allow them to keep subleasing to the Doniana County Head Start. The subleasing has allowed them to bring in income to do improvements to the building inside. And they've done a lot of work. I believe I did attach some photos up there on the, so if you see, it's very modern looking inside. And of course, they maintain the outside and the grounds everything. They've added air conditioning, replaced carpet, and they've got a plaque, and it's actually part of the New Mexico Historical Society. So it's a very important building to the district, and it's been very well maintained. The district physical plant does not maintain that building at all. Okay, they do it. So I will bring it for action next time, but they are asking that you consider the long-term lease and then the ability to keep subleasing to the Doña County Head Start. And I stand for any questions.
Questions, comments? I do have a question, and I
Yes,
guess Mr. Dempsey. What is your recommendation for granting the request to continue that 25 to 50-year agreement?
Madam President, Board members, based on the condition of the building and the work, obviously they've made the investments back into the facility. And had they not done that, then we would have to be doing that. So I think they've been a great partner with us. I do, they've had a 50-year lease, is that right, Ms. Cadena?
Yes.
And I think any one of our partners that have a 50-year agreement with us and have done this type of work, I think the board should consider grandfathering them and honoring that.
Any further
Madam
questions?
President,
Go
I
ahead,
do have
sir.
a question. You mentioned
Yes,
a
sir.
month-to-month lease that we go through.
Yes, sir.
Is that the standard?
The standard, yes. We started implementing that even before I had this position, but it was probably about 5 years ago. There was certain tenants we had that had leases that were either 3 years, 5 years, and the month-to-month just allows them or us to exit the lease with I believe it's a 60 to 90-day notice. I'm not sure what the decision was based on that to go that way. I think they just wanted everybody on the same lease. But there's always exceptions, and it is up to the board to consider it.
You said that was 5 years ago?
Yes, sir.
Madam President, I can add a little bit. I think what Ms. Cadena is kind of alluding to, we really had links of leases all over the place, and it was really extreme in the sense of some had 10-year leases, some had 5 years, some had, right? And so what we tried to do is first standardize it, and then second also recognize we, quite frankly, at the time had some issues with some of our tenants. And we really couldn't get them to address the concerns we had. So we may have taken a little bit of an extreme stand.
Yes.
I'm willing to review those again if the board would like to look at lengthening those times. But, again, everything's good till it's not. And then sometimes when you have a tenant and things aren't good, then it becomes a little bit of a problem. And when you think of a nonprofit being your tenant, that's one thing. But then when you think of a business that's making money and your tenant, and then it's a little different conversation. And that's where we had some struggles. And sometimes with some of our lessees still do, honestly. So, but I'm willing to, maybe at our next CMT, Ms. Canetta and I can have some conversations with our finance, kind of look at all those and bring back a recommendation to the board.
President, I do have one more thing. Thanks for that feedback and thanks for the information.
Yes, sir.
I think that from what I'm understanding is that you had to go to month to get rid of the bad, the ones that weren't doing what they needed to be doing and protecting the buildings. That's understandable. I think that if you do go back, and I would recommend that the board at least consider this, is that you go back, look at the different leases and restructure the way it's done. To give those people longer-term leases, but in the lease contract, address those issues that you had with the previous tenants, and then maybe that will lower the problems or mitigate the issues that you had before. But yeah, I think that in this case that we should do a long-term lease, especially hearing the report of the good things that they've done with that building. I mean, we need more stuff like that. If somebody's willing to do that, I mean, they've formed a group to take care of that, and I think that it should be done.
Madam President, thank you. I guess to piggyback on what you're saying, I think it is important to look through it, right? Because it is almost like you need to see the history of what's happening or what has happened in the past. So I think that is very important. We can't just decide to change it immediately when we know that, issues have occurred previously. But in this case, as he mentioned, seeing all the positive things that have happened, I think it suits for us to consider that. So what would be the next step, since this is just a discussion item, when will we bring it to a vote?
Madam President, board members, we would probably bring this particular item to a vote at our next regular meeting. And between now and that meeting, Ms. Cadena and I can review our leases and have some conversations and come back to you guys. Probably that would be in my opinion, that might be a separate discussion item to talk about the other leases, if you will. And we can, that's definitely something we could be prepared to bring to you.
I just want,
Madam President, I just have one more thing. I just want to make sure that it's clear that in this case, I do support a 50-year lease. I just want to make sure. So if it comes back as an action item, maybe this can be a separate action item, but the overall leases can be another action item that we can look at.
yes. Okay. I agree with what the gentleman said. Okay. Thank you for your presentation, Mel.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to discussion item 10B, presentation for the 11B, presentation for the Gadsden High School swimming pool assessment. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Cadena will present this item.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Superintendent Dempsey. Per the board request, we had a professional assessment done instead of just an in-house assessment of the GHA swimming pool and its associated pool house facility by AKS Architecture. AKS has done business with the district many years. They've been involved in many of our remodeling construction jobs. And they were also able to, not only did they participate in the assessment of the whole facility, but they also partnered with a firm called Councilman Hunsaker, who all they do is pools, and they are a nationwide company. I've attached for your review, I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but you're welcome to review. This is a discussion, and I will bring it back for action if the board so desires. I basically, if you go on to the next attachment, which is the summary, I summarized these 4 options that were brought up in the assessment. The first option is basically doing the basic recommended repairs, improvements to the entire facility to ensure with compliance with building, health, and operational code requirements. And I referenced the page for you if you want to go back later on and look at the full assessment. Includes the pool liner replacement, fencing repairs, deck repairs, not replacement of the deck. Includes very basic improvements to the pool house building, floor, walls, tiles, ceiling, roof, and paint. About $1 million to do that. And if you want to replace the entire pool deck, that's $1,129,000 estimated by AKS. Option 2 includes everything in option 1, but adds improvements that we're going to need to do within the next 2 to 5 years. And that includes the building electrical, lighting upgrades, fire alarm upgrades, and the restroom remodels, complete remodels. It also includes the pool improvements, replace the gutter gratings, add the pool heater, add high rate sand filter, and new VFD pumps, modern pumps. That comes at a cost of $2,155,000, and if we include the full replacement of the deck, you're looking at $2.2 million. Option number 3, I've asterisked because this is the option that Gadsden High School administration, in conjunction with their athletic and PE staff, desire, and that is repurpose the facility into a fitness center for PE and athletics in support of existing GHS school programs. And what it would entail is filling in the pool area and concrete over it, remove any associated equipment with the pool, and install outdoor athletic surfacing, so it's non-slip. Install new shade canopies, over the deck area, repurpose the pool pump building into storage for their needs, and complete the refurbishments of the pool house that we mentioned in number 1. That is the lowest price tag of roughly $928,745. Option number 4 is completely replacing that swimming pool with a brand new swimming pool and all its adequacies, but it does not include the pool deck, which we can add the difference, but I think it was like 100 and some thousand. It includes the mechanical room, does not include the mechanical room replacement or refurbishing, does not include any replacement or refurbishing of existing pool house facilities. So we wouldn't even touch the pool house. It would just be a building of a pool for $2 million. And that is a heated pool. It's not an enclosed pool. And if it was to be an enclosed pool, it would probably double the price. So I stand for questions. I do also want to go to the next. And I wanted to, and I can only make recommendations, it is the board decision, but I wanted you to see that these are the requests we get constantly from schools, okay? Shade canopy structures over their play equipment for the elementary campuses. Some campuses have them, a lot do not. Shade canopies at the secondaries where they wait for the buses or the parent drop-offs. Some of them have them, some do not. I can tell you that Santa Teresa High School doesn't, and they've been requesting one. And then we get requests for installing turf on the baseball and softball fields. And that estimated totals about 1.3 million. So if you add that to the 895,000, you have a total of 2.3 million or so. Just for your consideration. And of course, this is a discussion item. I'm here to answer any questions. And I also have Mr. Kranzel here with AKS Architects, that he can answer anything I can't. But we stand for questions, comments.
Ms. Murillo, go ahead.
Just to bring you a little bit up to speed, Mr. Morales, we have had issues with the swimming pool. We have had community members coming to the board talking about the swimming pool. I personally, I think that I like the idea of, moving on. It's very unfortunate, but I think the option 3, it looks like the best option with cost, and then it seems we're considering, the staff, the administration, community input, and I think that's very important because it seems like the swimming pool was like very a personal issue for a lot of the community. So I think if this is something that they want, I would like to, to be like being able to grant that. With the other one, I'm sorry, can you go to the next slide?
The
proposed
request?
yes. So I would like to see also middle schools there, because I've seen some of the middle schools and with the fields. I know that you have the installed turf for baseball and softball fields at the high schools. I've been living in this community for 7 years, and I have no idea what to do with the field in Santa Teresa High School, the soccer field. But it's a soccer field, but it doesn't meet the requirements for the fields, but then we can't even touch it. So I don't know, something there. I would like to hear the input from the administrators and athletics from that area as well, because we do get calls,
yes, ma'am.
What are we gonna do with that area? The sharing the football field between all the other sports.
I did want to let you know that actually AKS is actually designing turf on that soccer field right now.
Oh, okay.
So yes, it's in progress.
Thank you. Oh,
so
okay.
we still need to, once the design is done and we bid it out, we need to see, and that's also some funding that we need for that particularly. But I agree, it needs to be addressed, and I think it's a great idea to just turf it, and they can, it'll be multi-use as well for practices and stuff.
Right.
And I didn't include the middle school softball and baseball fields yet because we're having GMS reconstructed. We will have CMS reconstructed. And so, and we still need to look and see what we're going to do with Santa Teresa Middle.
Okay. So go back, people, community, go back to this 611. We did mention Santa Teresa Middle School.
Yes.
It is on the talk.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Madam, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. I think that one of the things that I noticed here, thank you for that report. It is very thorough. It has a lot of information. One of the things that I noticed is that the poll would not, PSEOC, or they're the ones that,
The PSFA funding?
PSFA, there's no funding.
You could actually go after a systems-based funding, I believe, for the pool. I have to confirm that. Don't quote me on that officially. You could, but remember, Ms. Rodriguez, that when you go after systems-based, it kind of reduces your chances of getting funding for something else you might want to do. It will say you want to do a standards-based or a reconstruction project. So in other words, they would say, okay, well, if they do fund the pool, we would have to apply for that, right? I'm not sure it falls under a system, but we'd have to apply. And they could always come back and say, well, we'll fund it, but you know, this will eat into future funding for other things. I believe that's how it works. And Mr. Dempsey has more insight on that too.
Okay.
No, I was just going to say that that's something that as a community we need to take into account, right? There's things that this is important for many people, as Ms. Murillo mentioned, but it is something that we need to almost like balance out, right, and see what really the priority should be. And so by us, if this is allowed, we need to know and make sure that everyone is aware that it does affect other areas. So is it worth it to take, you know, make this change or continue with the pool, but then knowing that what's going to happen for other projects that we have in mind.
Right.
So again, this is very, very thorough. I like the proposed district projects, but on the four options,
Yes, ma'am.
for the third one, you mentioned that it was the staff and the
administration. Principal
administration,
Legareta.
right?
Yes, ma'am. She's been involved in the whole process with us, and we have not talked to her staff or faculty, but she's had conversations with them.
My question to that is it just because I know it was like for PE, you know, they mentioned several things. So is it just specifically those teachers that had been part of this conversation, or is it the staff in general at Gadsden High School?
I'll let Ms. Legareta answer.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam President, board members, Superintendent Dempsey. It has been the whole staff, specifically the athletic programs. They have felt the need that we do need a place where to host or games or visitors when we have the games. And unfortunately, you know that they go into the swimming pool locker and it's not a good area. We also would like to increase the area for the students for the after-school programs. Like right now we have the after-school programs with the weight training and with the fitness and conditioning for students at risk. So we also need that space. We have the jazz, the golden motion, and the cheerleaders sharing the cafeteria at the time. So our after-school programs have been increasing. We have had the need to host the programs and at the same time allow the opportunity for the sports in season to have the facilities where they can practice and be successful.
Thank you for that. And again, I think it's creating that awareness, right?
Yes.
That there's a high need for other things. And yes, knowing that people are attached to the pool and, you know, thinking from history, like we used to have lessons there, but the reality is that things keep evolving and there's needs, greater needs. And so I appreciate that the whole staff is being involved in this because, you know, if it's just the PE, obviously they're going to advocate for what's for them, right?
Yes.
But if you have the whole staff being involved and letting them, you know, express their interest or give their input, I think that makes a bigger impact. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Morales.
Thank you. You knew I'd have a question, huh? I do have several questions. One is, you know, for option 1, 2, 3, or 4, is the funding available?
Yes, at the cost of not doing other things. Yes.
Okay, so as she alluded to, it'd be nice to know what wouldn't be done if one of those things were done. Look, I'm from this area. I grew up in that pool. I learned how to swim in that pool. My mom learned how to swim in that pool. You know, when I was a coach at Gadsden Tennis,
Yes, sir.
you know, we used that locker room for our tennis kids, and we hosted other classes, you know, and all that stuff. So I understand the importance. Now, I'm kind of curious as to the options for, I mean, they want option, what was it, 4? No,
Yes.
3?
Yes, sir.
What the Gadsden administration is asking for. You know, are there any other options? Are there any other spaces available? Go ahead.
Actually, no. I mean, as Ms. Legarreta pointed out, her programs have grown immensely. All her existing locker rooms are in use. And she, as she mentioned, the cheerleading squad practices in the cafeteria. There's a need for additional weightlifting facilities. And one of the things that they had stated that they could do with that outdoor area that's got the athletic surfacing and the shade canopies is do an outdoor weightlifting facility that can be used pretty much 90% of the year with our weather. But if you look at the campus, other than building a whole new facility, we don't have the room.
Okay. And the one thing that does concern me is that the availability of, you know, swimming in this area is pretty much non-existent unless you can afford a membership to the water slide. You know, and we, in my own business, we work with a bunch of kids that are high risk. And, you know, we raise funds to get them there. We provide free transportation to get our kids over to Las Cruces, and we pay for them to go do all that stuff. You know, and as I mentioned before, being from this community and learning to swim there, because unfortunately, my dad had a sibling that drowned, and my mother had a sibling that they both drowned back in the 50s. You know, so taking that away from the community is really concerning to me. And I think that there may be some other options. If we look hard enough, we maybe restructure some stuff in the budget. But I'm not convinced that that funding isn't there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
For myself, I've got mixed emotions here. I never swam in it because I didn't know, remember? I didn't even know it existed. And even though I graduated from Gadsden. You had, and I guess the previous slide, or I don't know, the one afterwards, where you're showing what other projects could be completed.
Yes, ma'am.
Why? So my question to you is, and I don't mean to be harsh, okay? Were we just waiting for the pool to be filled in order to complete these projects?
Not at all, ma'am. No.
So
Not at all. We've just been holding off because of budget, and actually, I can tell you that the reason we've kind of paused on our funding was because of Gadsden Middle School. We wanted, until recently, as you know, we were thinking it was going to come in a lot higher. So we were just kind of putting a pause on large expenses because we thought in lieu of 65 million that it came in at, it was going to come in at closer to 100 million. So now, you know, we're looking through all the requests. We're looking, as I presented a few months ago at the facility master plan. Remember the priority one? So no, and it's not tit for tat. It's just wanting to inform everyone of other requests that have been made that affect the whole district.
So we were to go with one of the options of not filling it in. You know, I guess I would agree with Mr. Morales in looking at other areas. You mentioned it, you said it beautifully. I can't replicate that, but you're looking at other ways.
Restructuring the budget.
Restructuring the budget to see if the possibility of looking at all other options except 3, I guess, would be my opinion. What else? If you can, Mr. Carmona, go back to the chart. So in option 3, and I appreciate the feedback from administration and teachers also, just help me understand, make sure that I can visualize this in my head. So what you're proposing for option 3 is filling in the swimming pool, and then you would put a new slab of concrete, and then what are we doing with that area?
Athletic surfacing, which is like almost like a playground surfacing that's non-slip.
Okay, Okay, so athletic surfacing.
Yes, ma'am.
So it would remain open to the elements?
Yes, and we would install shade canopies around it, or possibly one large one above it, depending what we determine is going to be the most use out of it. And then that option also includes remodeling the pool facility, inside and out.
Okay, so that area would be used for what? So I'm thinking cheerleading. They can do, or oh, Ms. Lagareta, come to the microphone, please.
I apologize. Madam President, board member, Superintendent Dempsey, it will be used for our RIS programs. We have had a very good success with gathering our students that are struggling, that are not eligible to participate on athletic programs because of grades, because of attendance. So we have channeled all of efforts into the after-school programs with the fitness conditioning, with the drug conversation, and we would like to use that area for that, for our weightlifting and all of our students that are staying. And we have had an improvement on attendance with that, and we have had an improvement on behavior with that.
So question. So
Yes.
those are wonderful ideas. So help me. So we've got the concrete,
Yes.
what you said. So are we going to have like the weightlifting
No, the
materials
classes
out there?
Yes, we will have some weightlifting equipment in there, and we will have our after-school kiddos that stay for the weightlifting in that area, and we will the kids that stay for the fitness and conditioning in that area.
How are we going to store the materials? Because what I'm afraid of is like when you're lifting, that stuff is
Yes.
metal. It's going to be exposed to the elements, and then we're going to get rusting going on. So we're like being counterproductive, in my opinion.
Yes, ma'am. And actually, the canopies would help with preventing the equipment to get wet, but that option includes refurbishing the pump house where all the pumps are and making it a storage so that they can use that for all the equipment.
Okay, so then
What
I'm envisioning then like benches and
Yes, ma'am.
the barbells
Things that
or
roll
whatever.
out.
They
You
come
can-
out, they can exercise outside, and then there's canopies for the sun,
Yes.
and then they self-storage. Okay, and then is it called the pool house, like where the restrooms are?
Yes.
Okay, so let me see. What are we doing with that? With
Well,
option 3,
the
pool house.
The option 3, the pool house, is the remodeling of it. Floors, ceilings, tile, paint, roofing, and then the bathroom stalls.
So new toilets, new sinks.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then also that would be used as a field house for visiting teams.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the structure of it is not going to increase. It's just going to remain the same.
Correct.
Okay, does that? I mean, I would never go in there when the football players from another team.
Right.
But usually because we are a District 5. The team, I don't know how many kiddos are in a football team. There's a lot, So my question is, because I have been to the field house, thank you, when you gave us a tour of that, the biggest area, I've always wondered, do they really fit in there? So if we go with that option 3, I guess they would be meeting outside in the surface area maybe, or because, right now, can we literally do they literally have enough space to be in that area? And I'm talking about the area where there's toilets. I think
Right,
that's the
and then
biggest area.
and if you remember, there's like an office in the center, and then there's another area. There are kind of 2 areas, correct? Miles? There's 2 locker rooms, and then possibly we could just demolish the offices if we don't need them and make more room, because they're in the center. They don't really serve a purpose for the use that it's going to be intended for.
Okay. So I actually just like what you finished saying is I was going to mention, are we going to be demolishing any walls in order to be able to make the facility bigger for our visiting teams? Because,
Yes.
I want our visiting teams to, say, hey, Gadsden has good facilities.
Exactly, something to be, to show off and
to be proud of,
And to be proud of.
and ultimately for our kids to be able to benefit from.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I think that's, I'll have to think about it more, but thank you for
Yes,
entertaining my questions.
I will get with Ludim Martinez and Nancy Vela, and we will look at our budget and go through expenses and see what exactly the budget is. Okay?
Are there any further questions, comments? Okay, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to discussion item 10C, legislative platform and requests. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, as you know, I want to get started on this early. Before you know, it'll be January, and we'll be into a long legislative session. And I didn't know, I kind of had in the back of my mind, we had started the legislative primer that we've been doing with Hatch and Las Cruces, and still probably wanted to do that and wanted to get any feedback you have. Last year was our turn. We hosted. We'd probably ask Hatch if they are interested. At this time, we've had a good turnout at those. I believe we had almost every county legislator there, and have been able to kind of share with them any concerns we have or any thoughts we have. And then it's a great opportunity to start getting together on legislative requests. So if the board has specific legislative ideas or requests, now's the time to get those identified and probably start working with our legislators to see what options are available.
Ms. Murillo.
I know we have two more, but I asked for special education. I really want to push for asking for special education in our district. I know one of the biggest, and this is the call for the last year and a half, job coaches, maybe giving them a stipend. We lose a lot of our SPED teachers. I know we were trying to do the stipend for last year, right? And it's not passing. So I've been talking to our legislators, and I was asking, what do you think we should do? Especially us being, I don't know if Claudia, you were there, but Mr. Morales, we had, we go to the session in February, and we met with the governor, and the governor, she kind of put us on the spot, right? Because she said, what do you guys need? I'll look through the bills, but we didn't have a bill. So I think this year we should be prepared and actually write a bill with the help of our legislators and propose it. And I mean, who knows, maybe this time we'll get, like some of that funding that we're asking, since it's not going through the New Mexico School Board Association. I'm still, I sent it to Mr. Joe Guillen. I sent a couple of them. Again, please, like our SPED teachers, our SPED department. I spoke with PED, and some of them, they said, we are giving the money to the districts. It's your job to distribute. You guys are the ones. And I'm like, well, we need more money. We need more money, and I will continue pushing for SPED. I will continue pushing for early childhood, for music, the fine arts. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, this is not my job, and I don't know how to write a bill. But if this is something that we can start working on, and we can all agree, and like we have been doing in the past, going with a 5, but now actually writing a bill with the help of our legislators, and then doing it this early. Because I did reach out, before things happened with your representative, Ms. Flores. They said, get with us before October, which is when we get with our staff, and then we can write a bill and we can help you guys. Because after October, that they get busy and committees and all that good stuff. So that will be one of mine that I will like to continue pushing, SPED and fine arts.
Go ahead, sir.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Bordeo, appreciate that feedback. What I would want the board to, even walk through a little bit is, and I don't think you get anybody here not in agreement with supporting special education and fine arts. When we say that, in order to get a bill passed, you're going to have to be a whole lot more specific than that. So really the board has to decide, what do you want, and get really clear in the language. And I'll be honest with you, before you get in front of legislators, because what'll happen is legislators might, not by any fault of theirs, misinterpret what we're asking, and then give us money tied very specific to something that's not what we wanted. And that's actually occurred. in different situations, right? Where a legislator tried to appropriate dollars, but the way it was written, we could only use it for this certain thing, and that wasn't our intent or their intent. And so we have to be really specific. These monies usually are coming out in junior bills. Junior bills have not been around that long. And this is a good time to ask for dollars, because keep in mind, there's a temporary, they typically, when you ask for a special allocation of dollars, it creates an offset. There's a temporary pause on those offsets. It's temporary. Knowing that we have 3 middle schools coming up, right? We've already started work on one. Those are $80 million projects. If we create an offset halfway through Chaparral Middle or Santa Teresa Middle, that's dollars we're going to have to take out of our budget. So we have to be very thoughtful about what we're doing here, because we have bigger projects than we typically have had in our budgets as we move forward. So just keep that in mind. This is a great year to go out and ask and request that, because that offset is temporarily paused. And I think it'll stay as the state budget's in a great spot. But I just want to keep that in your mind, and let's be very specific about what we would want, what the board would want to do with those dollars.
And thank you for that clarification, because yes, even one word changes the whole thing. And not to put them on the spot, but I see Ms. Rodriguez and I see Mr. Beach over there. And I mean, you guys are the experts here, right? Because you guys are the ones that oversee those departments, and maybe you guys have something in mind, and I would like to hear that during, I don't know, this even is appropriate to like even bring it in right now and hearing what they have to say. What do you think, Mr. Dempsey?
Madam President, what I would say is I don't think those individuals are probably prepared to do that tonight. So now we've kind of asked them to do it, and I think we can come back and visit the conversation and give them a chance to really sit with their staff, think about their students' needs, their staff needs, and then come back possibly with a list for you.
And then one of the things that I was told by one of the senators is, because you're right? We don't know what's going to change, and we don't want to hurt the district either, or hurt those departments, but think of the one-time instead of recurring dollars, right? So and one of them, he said, I know you and your fine arts, so right, instruments for elementary, it's a middle school, but then what comes with that? Teachers, right? So he said, think about like one-time dollars, and think big, and then think small, and then think needs and wants, instead of like, this is what we want for the next 5 years. So that's one of the things that he made very clear.
Anybody else?
Yes, thank you. I want to sit back. So thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. In listening to everything that you guys have said as far as the legislative priorities, I do have a lot of questions. And one is, when you met with the governor in her office, was it just people from the Gadsden district, or were there other people there?
So this is the second year, right? Or the third year. We took students. We took the ROTC. We saw a really great response, and so that was one thing that we asked Mr. Dempsey to bring students, to highlight them, to highlight the district. During the session, they will be presented, right, with, help me here, what is it called? Yes, it was like a recognition, and so then we will have, like the Senator Cervantes, you guys want to meet with the governor, take a picture. But this last year that we went, we took, who did we took? I forgot. Oh, it was the band, sorry, it was band. We took Santa Teresa High School band. They made, they didn't win state yet, or they did already? I forgot, I'm sorry, I apologize, but they were recognized for something, and she asked, what do you guys need, what do you guys want? And we just stay quiet, and they're like, do you guys have anything? And we're like, yes. And so she's like, I'll look for the bills. So, but we didn't have anything on hand. We didn't write a bill, but we did have the primer and met with the legislators. We asked for the needs, but we just didn't, it was lack of education, in my end, at least.
So another question I have is the collaboration between Las Cruces Public Schools and Hatch Public Schools. I've been in that situation before when I run the border authority, and we were presenting to the federal department, the Secretary of Transportation, for some projects. And the city of Las Cruces wanted us to join them and all the stuff. They kind of hijacked it. Well, I wasn't about to do that. So when we went to go present, of course, everybody else that was involved, they had one presentation and everybody got 5 minutes. And so I went up there and I spoke independently. And we got what we wanted. They didn't all get what they wanted. So I'm a little concerned as to how far that collaboration goes and if it's just funding. Because I think in my experience, I'll tell you a little bit about my experience. It's been more effective to be one-on-one with legislators and to go out there and lobby. I worked for Governor Bill Richardson's office for 7.5 years. And then I ran the border authority after that, and then I ran the city of Sunland Park after that. And each time we had to support legislation and sometimes kill it. And so we just got really good at it. And it wasn't, we called in the forces, as you say, when we needed to. But the most of it was one-on-one and finding that legislator that's going to support your legislation and finding that, someone that's going to kill a bill and how you're going to kill a bill that's not going to be, that's going to be detrimental to our area. And so I'm not a big fan of putting everybody together and then our voice will be less. And so going back to your, ideas as far as legislation. So I think that the district should come up at least with the financial priorities, and that's probably on the priorities list of everything that they want to do. And then the district should also come up with, all the other bills that will help, support different initiatives and stuff like that. But I think that if you talk to your legislator, you can say, they're going to tell you, hey, you know what, someone else is doing this. I've done that before where we're looking at creating some fund for students, and then somebody says, oh, go talk to Ricardo at NMSU, Ricardo Rel. And then it turns out that their bill is better. So it's like, okay, so we started lobbying on that bill, and we were able to, it was a collaborative effort at that time. That bill passed, and then they funded more tuition money for kids, and it was like $25 million that they put into a fund that they created a long time ago. But, it's just, I think that one-on-one with our legislators would be good. The election's coming up. I think it's probably good to speak to some of the candidates one-on-one and to get those priorities in there and get them, at least a little committed to listening to us,
So just, and I'm sure you know this, but we share some legislators with other districts. And so I used to think like that, why do we have to share? But in the long run, we started learning that it was helping because they will see us around with other districts that they're like, oh yeah, I remember you. So they will support us even on the side. But with Las Cruces and Hatch, we even there's a legislator that really supported, and maybe you can help me with that, but the food trucks. And she has nothing to do with us, but just because she went to that legislative primer, and maybe you can tell him because you'll be more specific with that.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that it can't be helpful. What I'm saying is that we just need to make sure that we're not lost and that we get our priorities, and our priorities are not watered down, because that can happen. And like I said, I've been through that before, I've done it, and even when I've been on the other side, not as a legislator, but as a representative for the governor, I've been able to get stuff on the budget and, big items that were otherwise going to be line item vetoed or had been removed by, somebody else. So I'm just saying, let's not totally write off the individuality of speaking to our legislators and other elected.
Did you just have something just now? I would be for the primer. I'd be on board with that. And for myself, Director Rodriguez, for me, it's being a special education teacher. I know what it is like to put countless hours working on IEPs till 2, 3 in the morning. And so I've always advocated for stipends for our special education teachers. Have even brought it to the attention of the former special ed director. You know, I wish we could do that as a local district to do that, but if we need to take it to legislators so that they can provide the funding, not just for Gadsden, but for all of the state of New Mexico. Because, you know, somebody said, like with currently our bilingual education teachers do have a stipend, although I think it should be more, you know. But, you know, why, I have yet to find out why they did it, other than somebody told me, well, there was a need for them, so somebody proposed it, and now it's something that we need to do. So there is a great need for special education teachers. Just so that you know, ma'am, I did write a resolution when I was part of the resolution committee, but unfortunately, it's crazy. My colleagues that sit on that resolution, whenever that was, said no, because then the general ed teachers are going to say, why do they get it and we don't? And I'm like, the general education teachers are not going to say that. That's why they're general ed teachers. They don't want to be dual. They don't want to be bilingual or special education teachers because of the work that it entails. And so, you know, I would greatly support your, you know, would appreciate your support for our teachers, and, you know, so I would like to see where we work with our legislators. I don't know if it's writing a bill or something, you know, to get that support for our special education teachers.
Just to let you know that I am in the resolution, so I got the email and I'm gonna be responding, but I'm gonna be responding with guidance because we go up to Albuquerque, and then they start voting no, and then some of our resolutions, they don't even like get heard.
And then the other thing for me would be, Mr. Dempsey, is working with our, I think you had mentioned Arlene, I think that one of our legislators was willing to work with us in creating also a bill to for attendance. You know, that it is a nationwide thing, the chronic absenteeism. And so I've been thinking, okay, because I would say put teeth to it, you know, hold them accountable, you know, but I'm thinking, well, maybe we got to take things differently and not a bill where, I don't know if the solution is making them accountable in what I'm going to say a negative way, or maybe let's think of a more positive way to hold parents accountable for having their children present at school, because, you know, every day that they're absent, they get behind, and sometimes, unfortunately, maybe it is educating parents of the importance. Maybe this generation, I don't know, I don't know, and I don't want to offend anybody, but, you know, my own parents is like, you got to go to school. And I've even said it, you know, I am proud that my own kids have excellent attendance. And, you know, I get it that at times, you know, the social emotional well-being of a student is also important, but, you know, they've got to be at school so that they can learn. So that would be another topic that if we can work with legislators or, you know, communicate to them at the primer that maybe with their support, something, a bill or I don't know, could help support districts.
Madam President, Board members, thank you for that input. What I'll do, if this is the will of the board, I'll continue to have this as a discussion item, and we'll just work on refining it every meeting, and then we can probably, and I agree, there's always it's important to have a one-on-one conversation with legislators. It also, I mean, I think we showed it, a benefit when we pulled together as a group this last year. I will say that I agree, sometimes when we work with really large organizations, to be real frank, they'll utilize our demographic to get a grant, and then that grant gets watered down pretty badly. And so we got to be aware of that. I think we got to be thoughtful and cautious when those things are occurring. We do have an opportunity here, though. One of the county representatives is, I believe, on the chair of House Finance. This is an opportunity we won't always have, and we probably need to try to work together to maximize that work and effort. So it's a little both. I would agree. I think the number one factor, if someone were to ask me today, what's the number one factor impacting schools from improving academically? It's student attendance. There is no, the Student Attendance Act that was passed a couple years ago has some really good supportive measures in it, has pieces that we have to do on our side, but at the end of the day, there is zero teeth for parents. And you cannot create a partnership without both of us being at the table with some skin in the game. And in my opinion, that's the component that is very much missing. I think there are some incentives, and I've even proposed some of those incentives. Nothing really seemed to have come of that, so maybe that's a place to start. That's fine. But we do have to consider how are parents being held accountable for their child's attendance.
Just wanted to mention that, big shout out to, I'm not sure what they're called, a student advocate. They used to be the fish people. the ones that, attendance advocates. So, thank you for going out there and you doing your part. And thank you, Ms. Villalobos, she's not here tonight because, there has to be a chronic absenteeism rate. So I'm not blaming you guys. It's just you guys are doing an awesome job. But yeah, we need help, like I said, maybe from the legislators to put some teeth in there to hold parents accountable, because and many times, like I said, it's the adults. Until we fix the adult issue, then things are going to hopefully straighten up. So thank you, sir. Any other comments? Okay. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Mr. Dempsey, are you aware if PD distributes federal grants, right? Federal, what do you call it? Federal grants. Are they the ones that distribute that?
Madam President, board members, there are a couple different kinds of federal grants. Some are flow through, some are like Title I or RFR based, but yes, PED is the clearinghouse for the federal, for the allocations of federal dollars.
Do you know if there is a formula for the distribution of those grants?
Madam President, board member, absolutely. They're definitely, it's based on, usually a Title I status is typically where the largest dollars are generated. There could be other factors, but Title I is going to be the largest that any district collects in New Mexico.
And the reason that I ask that is because, God, about 20 years ago, we started the Technical Bridge Program. And at that time, some of the federal grants, including Carl Perkins and all those grants up there, the majority of that funding was given up to the cities up north of Socorro. And until we got involved and created that with the direction of Bill Richardson, he said, hey, we need to, the technical bridge, we brought it to him, he agreed to it, and he supported it, and then funded it through legislative. And then we brought it here, and we actually implemented it at Gadsden High School in collaboration with Johnny Anna Branch Community College. But in order to get that done, we had to get some federal funds. And at that time, the majority of the funds, I think at that time there were like 22 or 21 grants that were, the majority of the money was up north. They had to reallocate some of those funds. And I'm wondering if there's, since then, I hope there has been, if there's been any change, that maybe that's one of the things we can advocate for, is that the legislators, and hopefully the governor would sign it, pass some type of formula that, includes Title I schools, but also goes further and, and sets a formula that will give us a better chance. So if we're battling against Title I schools in the north, do we have a chance because we're so far down south? Maybe there's something to look at, but we can speak to our legislators and see if that's a possibility.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, if there's no more comments or questions, we're gonna move on to discussion item 11D, network internet performance. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Mr. Snowdy is going to help us with this presentation.
Madam President, school board members, Superintendent Dempsey. To give you an update on the network, in essence, roughly 3 weeks ago, we had a cyber attack against the district. One of the primary systems that was affected was what's called our DNS server. It's our traffic control program that allows network traffic to go through. So that system was impacted, and for the previous 3 weeks, we've been trying to rebuild that network trafficking system, and as of yesterday, we got that back online. I know it highly impacted students and teachers on campuses. I was able to visit with the Trenches group, which is the teacher representatives from each of the campuses this week, and kind of explain to them the process of that restoration. And then we were able to get systems back up online pretty much full speed yesterday. So as of right now, we seem to be doing well. And just to give you kind of the DNS server is like a traffic control system for all of our facilities. And to imagine if somebody was able to go in and turn off every stoplight within El Paso, what type of traffic that would cause. So we still had internet connection, but it was severely impacted because the control systems weren't regulating like they should. So we were able to get the traffic lights back on and get kind of that freeway rebuilt.
So what you're saying, sir, is it was like there was still internet, but it was very, very delayed.
There was connectivity, but it was extremely delayed. There was a lot of latency there. And then with everybody trying to get on at the same time, you can imagine it's just like a crowded freeway. If you have a lot of people trying to get in, trying over and over to get in, it just adds to that traffic.
Okay. So I was the board member that brought this item to the agenda because I had received phone calls from concerned staff, teachers, frustrated because, they couldn't use, obviously, their technology. And so, I was mentioning to you that, we want to move away, the district has moved away. We want to see engaging activities, not worksheets. So, some were saying, well, we can't even make copies. But, the alternative would be, okay, let's stop. I'm not accusing our teachers of using like worksheets, but whatever was engaging that they needed to make a copy, well, those weren't available because they couldn't use their laptop, and they couldn't print. And so then, my easy thing was thinking, well, then use technology, but that's what the problem is. So, I was mentioning to you earlier in a conversation that with the 3 TikToker guys, and you had mentioned, it's not about if they strike again, but when, and just maybe through them educating them, like what are other ways that we can prepare our teachers, or what else can we do in place when our copy machines, when our computers are not working, and when technology is like, we have to have a plan so that we can continue with instruction, and not let that be a factor to delay us. And, and thank you for reaching out, staff, teachers. I see your concerns, and, just remind you to, the opportunities, go to your campus and administrators and through the trenches.
And just to give you some context, not everything we do is seen by the campuses, but I can tell you many of us had very late nights trying to figure out systems and trying to figure out how to get systems back online in full. So there are some of my staff that really haven't slept much in the last 3 weeks.
I mean, I just ask our staff members that they also be understanding, but I know you guys are doing an awesome job trying to correct that, and I know they would appreciate communication of what, not into detail, but to let them know where we are, and just it's inevitable that it might happen, that when it's going to happen again, and that just so that we are ready as far as how we're going to deal with it, knowing that our technology is not going to work. We can resort to paper pencil stuff, but then if we need copies, well, that's not going to work either, because we can't print off of our printers or computers. And I just wanted to also share that I had shared with Mr. Dempsey that some individuals had gone out there and made expenses on buying their own laptops, and they had to do what they had to do, and I appreciate you guys doing that. But some even asked me if they would be reimbursement.
Well, all teachers and students had access to safe devices, Chrome devices, Chrome boxes. Not everybody's happy with like a Chrome box or a Chromebook, but everybody did have access to a safe device.
Okay.
Madam President, board members, what I might also share is, those of you who've been here a little while, we went through this a couple years ago, and we were shut down for some of our systems almost 2 months. We ran payroll the same week we got hit. That couldn't have happened last time. And part of our struggle right now, quite frankly, is that, and Mr. Snowden, you're gonna have to stop me here if I go too far, and we can explain why, is the way individuals use the network save. If they save on a hard drive, like locally on their computer, that data is probably lost and possibly compromised, and that's what's getting compromised. Mr. Snowden worked with me several years ago when we experienced that, taught me how to save to the cloud. Through this, my cell phone is, I can do almost everything from my cell phone. I can get any document that I have right from my cell phone. Now, there's some pieces of it. Printing was a little bit of a struggle. I get you that. I understand that. But I would suggest that we've made huge strides. And I think we'll continue to learn about this, learn from this experience, and get better and better. The other thing I would share with those teachers that are struggling is if you went to our warehouse today, there are more consumables than you could ever even want, and they can have every single one of them. The warehouse is full of consumable workbooks for just about every single subject that we teach.
Okay, thank you for addressing my questions and the topic, Mr. Dempsey and Mr. Snowden. Are there any further questions, comments? Ms. Murillo.
I was one of the ones that I was getting a lot of phone calls too. With the Chromebooks, some of the teachers, their concerns, frustration was the network was not really good. And still, since it says network as well, I'm gonna throw it out there. Some of the schools don't have good service, and I don't know, is there anything that we can like do with even cell phone service? I went to the middle school a couple of weeks ago, and I mean, SOS, there was SOS, and I have Verizon. Then I went to, but it seems like it's inside of the buildings. It's not, I don't know.
The difficulty with like cell phone repeaters, I mean, a cell phone repeater, we can buy those, but the range is only about 100 feet radius from that repeater. So we could plug in a cell phone repeater, but then when you build in walls and other structures like that, it cuts down that range of that repeater. The main problem is we are so rural, so spread out, there's not enough towers to support those. So the only option would be to put a cell phone repeater, which they do sell, but the range is still very limited. Now, we do have with our guest Wi-Fi, if you know how to do it, you can do Wi-Fi assist calling. So if you join the guest Wi-Fi and you have Wi-Fi assist calling, it will use the network to actually call out. But because of our rural nature, there's just not enough cell phone towers.
Thank you, Mr. Snowden. Thank you. Have a good evening. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to discussion item 11E, special education update. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Hernandez is going to present this item. She may have help from her staff as well. Ms. Rodriguez, I believe, and others.
Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Dempsey, I'm here to present with Ms. Rodriguez, our Associate Superintendent for Special Education. Again, I just wanted to really thank the support we got in reorganizing this department. We started this process last semester, and so we've implemented several of the pieces already. I do want to preface to the board that right now the services continue to be done the way we've always done them, because we just have been meeting as a team, especially now that the administrative team is together. So one of the things that I'll start it off, and then I'll have Ms. Rodriguez support in some of these pieces. So our special education population has now been identified at a little bit over 2,000 students. Our biggest growing disability we've noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Rodriguez, is autism, right, in the district. And so that's something that really as a team they're working on in regards to making sure that we have the correct people in place. The next thing here, as you see, is the administrative team is in place, and by that I mean the 3 directors and Ms. Rodriguez. We just recently hired the last coordinator. Ms. Cheryl Coyle is actually on board now as one of the coordinators, and that position of Desert View is now being filled. We've made a recommendation. But again, you know, sometimes we just have to work with some of the capacity we already have, and Ms. Coyle is really a very important piece in this area. Currently, there are desktop audits being done by this team on IEPs, programs, and staff currently in place. So right now, it's a lot of the logistical pieces. We're collecting data, we're organizing staff, we're looking at staffing, we're looking at ways of supporting the SPED teachers. You know, we can't promise anything this year, but one of the goals that the district has had with Mr. Dempsey's vision in this piece is really allowing our IAs in special ed units a better increase, right? Because we do have students in LSC, DSC, and so that's something we're looking at. Again, as you're aware, staffing is done in January, and so funding is already tied up by then. The other thing is we're doing a critical review of hiring practices and services provided. And by that, I mean that we have programs and things that have been outdated. And in some campuses, we don't do certain things like inclusion services. We're really working on the gifted piece. Are we hiring the right people? And not just are we hiring, are we training the right way? Right? And so there's a lot of gaps that we're still filling. So I just wanted to make sure that the board knew that currently everything's running kind of like it still ran last semester. Right now, it's just a lot of data collection. We're also hiring staff in all different areas. We were able to figure out ways of contract services being brought back in for employees so that we could hire staff instead of contracting out. And so that's an ongoing process. The other piece that this team has started doing is they're doing in-person visits to campuses, meeting with staff, and then interviewing principals. And as the need arises, well, they go to each individual piece. I'm going to let Ms. Rodriguez now take over in this area, and then if you have any questions, then we'll go ahead and answer them together, since we have been working really close and trying to develop this team. And so, Ms. Rodriguez.
President Flores, members of the board, Mr. Dempsey. As Ms. Hernandez was saying, we've been doing a lot of campus visits, we've been meeting with teachers, we've been meeting with administrators, and part of what we're seeing is where our needs are. So part of that next piece on the data collection is bringing on some training. So one of the training that we would love to bring in is our inclusive practices. We need to train our administrators and our teachers how to provide inclusion support in the general ed classroom. Some of that, what that's gonna also entail is to look at our staffing practices as well. So I am so glad you already brought it up. Thank you very much. I've been talking to Ms. Burciaga, Ms. Hernandez, and Ms. Martinez. We've been working together on the idea of additional stipends for our special education teachers. I started as a special education teacher, and no offense to my general ed counterparts, but I know I did a lot more than, you know, writing those IEPs at night, making sure we're evaluating students. With that being said, one of the things that we've been working on is really looking at our job descriptions, because our job descriptions need to really identify what our teachers are doing, and that way we can tie it back into what we're doing in the classrooms and what our staffing models look like. The other thing we're looking at is a structured teaching model. As Ms. Hernandez was saying, one of our highest populations that we're seeing more and more students being identified is students being identified as having autism. We know research says the best thing for our students with autism is a structured teaching model. So in working with our teachers, our special education teachers, and our general education teachers in looking at that structured teaching model to see how we can implement that in the general ed setting and in some of our self-contained settings. So we're looking at bringing training for our teachers as well. We're gonna bring in our instructional support specialists soon, so that way they're gonna be able to go support our teachers. I know, especially in special education, that retention is a hard part. So we're also bringing on another, one of our instructional specialists will be working specifically with new teachers, new to the profession, because they're learning how to be teachers, but then they need to understand the compliance piece, the IEP piece, the data collection piece. So that person will be able to support our new teachers. Very excited this past week, Dr. Valenzuela and Dr. Pando met with some of our new teachers, and we've already started that process. We've brought them in for training and, you know, trying to get them to relax so we can keep our teachers. The other thing we're looking at is, especially for our BSc classes, our behavior classes, we've been seeing some of our classes, and we've got some teachers are implementing Boys Town model, but bits and pieces of it. And again, we've got a lot of new teachers coming on board, so we want to bring that training back so we're all on the same page and our teachers are doing what's best for kids. Coming up in a few weeks, we've got our picture exchange communication system training. That's going to help our teachers in our SEC classes and in our self-contained classes, along with our speech pathologists, again, working on a good communication system for some of our students who struggle with communication. Many times we just hear, you know, there's a lot of students, they've got these behavior difficulties. I promise you, been there, done that. I was in one of those classes. And anytime I was, you know, getting hit or bitten, something like that, usually it was my kids that were telling me something. They were either telling me, you're in my space, back away, and looking at that function of behavior, but giving those students a skill to be able to communicate that's more appropriate. So that's something that we're going to bring in as well. And then our new teacher training is going to continue as we're bringing in our teachers, specifically looking at what skills do they have and how we can better support them. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. Again, based on what you've mentioned earlier, we've been talking to human resources, getting our list of teachers who are already on board. We've got those positions so we can start looking at the possibility of stipends and looking at an increase for our paraprofessionals and anybody who's working with students with disabilities. So, but again, that's going to entail some of our revamping of our job descriptions and looking at some of those differentiated scales for our teachers as well. Do you have any questions?
Questions? Okay, so let's see. Let Mr. Morales, go for it.
I'll be quick. And I have a series of questions, but I'm going to try to get them all out at one breath because I have a feeling that you'd be able to answer them instead of starting over again. So I'd like to know within the district what are the other departments you're working with, and then also when do you anticipate the completion of the program reorganization, its implementation time, anticipated obstacles, and what we can do as a board to support you?
Oh, thank you so much for that. So right now we've got our leadership team in place. Me and our 3 directors are in place. We've got 1 additional coordinator coming in for our GT population. Right now, again, we're going on to campuses. We're looking at classrooms. We're getting a lot of requests from campus administrators on staffing needs, those kinds of things. So we're going on to campuses, comparing what we've got in writing, what do you say you've got, what's actually happening in the classroom, and making recommendations to our campus administrators. I think part of the biggest hurdle we're going to see is just some new processes in place. At this point in time, developing those written processes so we can be very consistent. I think in the past it was people would call human resources or call the department, we need additional staff, and it was determined that way. Ms. Burciaga has developed anybody who's requesting any new staff, to include special education staff, there's a process now. They go into this system, they put it in, we meet as a team, we'll go out to the campuses, either myself with one of the other directors, we go out there, see, can we use the staff that's already on campus? Maybe it's just a matter of, you know, okay, this class seems to be overstaffed. Can we take, you know, this person and put them over here instead to be able to support this other teacher? Or possibly looking at master schedules. And that's going to be a little bit more work starting for next school year when we start building those master schedules. So those are going to be some of the growing pains and some of the things that you know, as we've been working with our directors of elementary, secondary, bilingual, MLSS, we're all working together. Okay, what can we do to alleviate any issues? What are you all seeing? What are we seeing? As we're all going out to campuses, we're talking to each other. When we meet with academic services, okay, this is what we're seeing. You know, part of the thing we've also seen is our over-identification or over-referrals of some of our students that are English learners. So once they come to us to evaluate, we have to rule certain things out. So we've been working with MLSS to make sure campus administrators and counselors understand, okay, these are some of the things that we can do to support our students before it becomes a referral for special education.
The last part was, what as a board can we do to support you?
Say yes when I come to ask for stuff.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. President Flores, members of the board, and Superintendent Dempsey. Thank you for the questions, Mr. Morales. We really appreciate it. I think like Ms. Rodriguez said, the biggest challenge is we are reorganizing special ed. It's not going to look the same. And so that's going to be the biggest challenge because we can already kind of feel that. I think that the other pieces, like Ms. Rodriguez said, the over-identification of EL students. So we work closely with the bilingual department, our language, equity, and cultural arts department. But the other piece that I have done and that I feel that is very important is that special ed is part of academic services. They are not separate. And so in the past, it was kind of like they're SPED students, they don't do general ed, right? And so I mean, it's pretty much a directive for the team is they need to be involved in everything general ed because they support the special ed, the special services. And so, you know, she's also having to work with Ms. Margie Berkhold with the information systems because we have to make sure that our students are tagged correctly in the system because for us, it's funding. It's, you know, you talked about grants. So luckily, to answer the question you had earlier in the meeting, yes, the state provides different types of grants, like the Family Income Index grant, which is given to certain schools. If we are schools in designation, they're provided money as well. And so through Title I, Title III, Title II, Title IV, you know, all the titles. And so there's a lot of subgroups in there that have to do with attendance, new teacher, mentoring. And so I appreciate that question as well. So I guess just in conclusion, we work very closely together with all the departments because our special education students are all of our students, not just, you know, including our gifted, because that's another population that we need to work on curriculum with as well, right? And so those are pieces. And the implementation, the full implementation, I believe will be next year. We'll have bits and pieces in place as we look forward to developing our students and the capacity and teachers and staff, but we're really looking forward to it. I'm super excited.
I just have one more of a comment.
Yes.
So the new program, I like to hear it. I'm excited about what you're saying. And if you're modeling it after an existing program, would that be yes or no? Which one? You're modeling it after an existing program or creating a new one?
On which part, sir?
On the whole reorganization.
We're looking at different research-based practices.
But, okay, so you're going to create this. And to me, that's, you know, dollar signs for me. Because in my experience, in a lot of projects that we've started, the word pilot is always been effective. And they may fall into the legislative agenda. You know, so if we go and say we want to pilot this program, we've already started, we need some additional funds to do this, then maybe we go after some type of legislation that's in line with the with SPED and something that'll support this program, and we can say, hey, yeah, we brought this over here to pilot this program, and then that's a little more than a comment, but yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Ms. Murillo.
Thank you so much, because I did requested this to be part of an item, but I had a list of questions, and it was like you guys already knew what I was gonna ask, and I didn't ask before, but you answered most of the questions except for one. It seems for some reason I'm the one that has the luck with SPED. You know, I had my meltdowns here publicly a couple of years ago, and you know, I'm gonna continue advocating for those parents, you know, the lack of communication, and I'm not gonna throw them out there, but I'm gonna put myself out there. Like yesterday, I had an IEP today, and I got a phone call yesterday at 8:45 at night, calling me to make sure that I was gonna attend today, and I'm like, yes. And then this morning, you know, with the situation that happened at the middle school, they're like, oh, based on the district's decision, we're not gonna have the IEP. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll work with, you know, my IEPs, with the teachers. I'll work with whoever, as long as my kid is being served. But now I'm seeing what the parents, you know, their frustration, the lack of communication. I've got calls from another elementary, you know, that they haven't had a teacher, so that kid is not being serviced at all over the last 3-4 weeks, but the parents never knew. And so I am gonna continue to advocate for those parents, you know, just communication, even if you don't have it. And I told them, you know, we don't have the teachers, and they're like, and that's fine, but let me know. You know, as a parent, let me know, how can we help them? The other part that I didn't see here that I did, I wanted to put out there is, we have before I left, I was working with a DD waiver with the state, and we had over 75 students servicing here in Gadsden. And they have case managers, they have agencies, and so I think the collaboration, you know, as a district, working with them, because whenever you guys are not available, or whenever, like for example, this kiddo, you know, they don't have a teacher, you know, the case manager comes in and they have staff, you know, they have funding for staffing, and maybe just working with them even after school or outside of the school system on the weekends. I think we can take advantage of that, because at the end of the day, we're helping, you know, the students succeed.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that's it.
Mrs. Rodriguez.
Thank you. I think that one of the questions that was asked, right, like what can we do as a board? I think at this point we need a lot of patience, because it's a big process, right?
Yes,
and so hearing all the great things that you're gonna implement, you know, having that vision is gonna take time, and definitely we might not see it immediately. And I think that as parents, we need to understand that, right? Because we want things to be done immediately, because we're concerned about our students. But it's something that I appreciate the fact that you're looking into different things, and things that have already happened and perhaps were not being implemented correctly. So that's great that's gonna continue, and having a different vision, and what can we do, and collaborating and looking at all the angles, right? And because that's what's going to make help support the student. I appreciate you mentioning gifted, because that's, you know, it falls under the umbrella, and many times, you know, we tend to just stay on one side and forget about that other population that in reality it affects, right? I mean, statistics show that a lot of the jails are full of kids or people that are gifted. Right. And so I think that we cannot neglect that group, because that's when we, you know, because of that gap, then we create problems that really shouldn't be happening. So I appreciate you mentioned that that's also in your radar, and don't forget, but I agree with Ms. Murillo, you know, we need to continue that communication with parents so that we know what's happening and that this is moving, right? It might not be moving at the pace that we would expect it as a parent, but it is, you know, it's in progress. So that communication is critical, so that people understand that, you know, we have not forgotten, you know, we're not setting it aside. It's something that we're actually looking further now, instead of just dedicating, you know, having that separation between the special education and you know, the two groups, right? And so it's not two groups, it's one. It's all, it entails that. So continue that, and, you know, of course, whatever we can do to support, we're here. That's what we're working together. But I think I'm looking forward to this. I mean, I think it's going to be great.
I'm
in
excited.
The long run.
We're
Yes.
very excited about it.
My turn. Okay, so I think Ms. Tarazona is going to be very happy with what I'm about to say. So I would hope, Ms. Rodriguez, that you as our new special education director, you would discourage students that have IEPs being removed from dual language.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You know,
and you don't have to, I mean, I just.
We're very
Yes.
excited about the opportunities. Dr. Valenzuela is our director of instruction for special education, and she's already on it. She's already looking at IEPs, and we're looking at how we're going to be able to serve our students.
I'm sure you have heard these also in the past. Get them out because they become confused, and I don't want to believe that. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Next thing is, I'm glad to hear that you're working along with. So correct me. Did you say the MTSS SAT is that under special education? Or is that different?
MLSS is under academics, but we're working a lot together, especially with the students that are potentially going to be referred for special education. Dr. Pando has been working with our MLSS team, looking at those referrals, looking at that SAT process as well. So we're working together with that team as well to make sure when we get a referral for special education, and we've been working with our campus administrators too, kind of explaining what special education is. You know, it's a twofold process. Student has to have a disability and a need for special education services. And for those students, for our students who have limited English proficiency or have difficulties with the language, is that truly a disability, or are there other systems that we could put in place to support our students? So in working with, you know, the different departments, you know, again, we're all looking at the same information so we can support each other in our goals.
No, and that is awesome to hear, because in my current role, I'm learning that it's so important to educate us as administrators, also teachers, because many times I have experience where fellow teachers will not engage in filling out the SAT or going through that process because of all the work it takes. But we have to remember that the ultimate goal is not to, you know, it's to keep them from getting tested. But if they need to, then we can do that. And you know, working with the diagnosticians too, you know, they're a great resource to educating, you know, maybe in a PLC, teachers as, you know, because, you know, they have to look at the New Mexico team manual in order to be able to determine whether they qualify students. And having that experience allows teachers to see, you know what, the diag is not the bad guy. You know, they're just doing their job, and we have to do our job by providing the cycles of intervention. Since I mentioned intervention here, I know that you would agree that special kids that have an IEP are general ed students first.
And always.
And always. So with that being said, do they also get to receive intervention services that are not being administered by the special education teacher?
Yes, ma'am. That's one of the things that our MLSS team has been working on as well. We actually talked about it at one of our last academic services meetings. And again, any time that we can provide any type of intervention through general ed support, you know, and we've all probably seen it, that could potentially prevent a more restrictive placement for a student who is receiving special education services. So let's say the student is receiving special education support in reading, and they're struggling in math, but now we can provide those interventions in math. Well, if we provide those interventions appropriately and correctly, then that student may not need to go into a special education math class. So that's why we're providing those interventions through MLSS for any of our students. And if, let's face it, if we're not providing those MLSS services to our students who are identified as having an IEP, receiving special education services, we're discriminating. So we're working hand in hand with the different departments, and we're all on the same page. We're all in each other's business.
Very nice.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me see. So I have a lot more, but I think I can always call you and have those
Absolutely.
questions. But I just do want to ask you this question. I had mentioned to Mr. Dempsey at the counter at work, I saw, and I forgot to bring it to you, but I saw a flyer, which probably pertains to all the state of New Mexico, regarding the OMBUD office that, they'll help you with special education with parents. So I was mentioning to Mr. Dempsey is, what is the plan for our district? Because we always, Mr. Dempsey, myself, and, administrators will say, well, we need to follow the chain of command with regards to concerns. We always do that. But in the event, ma'am, that families, feel that they cannot talk to the administration, do we have like our own district mini OMBUD where they can directly call you or directly call somebody in the special education services so that they can express, this is what's happening? Because sometimes, I hate saying this, but they fear retaliation, or maybe they've had an unpleasant experience. Hopefully that's not the case. But, if they've tried, we've got to give them the benefit of doubt that they've tried, and maybe they just don't feel comfortable.
So I'm very glad you brought that up. We've been working with Mr. Carmona. Dr. Valenzuela was requested that Mr. Carmona come to our office, and we're working on revamping our website. Okay. So our contact information will be on our special education page. So parents can look at our contact information with our 3 directors and myself. Let's say a parent has questions regarding instruction. So they'll know by looking at the team and who does what, they can go to Dr. Valenzuela. If it's an evaluation or a compliance issue, they can go to Dr. Pando. If it's for ancillary services, any concerns with that, they can go to Mrs. Maya Villegas, or they can come to me. All our information will be posted. We're working on finalizing that so we can publish that on our webpage. That way anybody can go to our webpage, know where our offices are, and our contact information.
With this last question is that when administrators, and I'm going to advocate for you administrators, okay, there's sometimes situations, which I hope is not the case, here in our district, where, maybe they feel that, the placement of particular students is not the correct placement. They're reaching out, they're not getting answers, are they reaching out when it comes to special education needs? Are they reaching out to HR or to your department?
They've actually been reaching out to HR if they feel they need more staff. They're coming out to us if their teachers need support. So if the teacher has questions, if they need support within the classroom, they're reaching out to us. However, if they are reaching out to human resources, Ms. Burciaga is letting us know so we can go out to the campus. Okay, what kind of support do you all need? And that way we can kind of look at, is it a classroom management issue? That's a different type of intervention for that teacher. Or is it truly, we've got too many students there? If we have a lot of students in a self-contained type class, then one of the things that we're looking at is, okay, is the population of students, what feeder pattern are they in, or what campus are they in? And possibly looking at, do we need to split that class up so we have 2 more manageable classes? Right now, for the most part, we're only dealing with one situation where we've got a lot of students. They've requested another staff member, and we've been out to the campus and said absolutely, and made some recommendations to the teacher regarding what we can do to structure that classroom. And again, that goes back to some of the training that we're already looking at that we want to put in place.
Okay. I'll be calling you. But thank you
Yes,
so much.
ma'am.
Mrs. Rodriguez, go ahead.
I'm sorry, just one more thing. Going back, you had mentioned the SAT team, right? And so I'm curious, are we going to continue with the GATS, with the gifted? And then I know that there was a case study, that was, it took a while to get there. And so is that also going to be part of what the vision is and
Yes,
continuing
ma'am.
with that?
So we're very excited about our gifted coordinator who's going to be coming on board. Lots of experience in that area. As a matter of fact, used to work at Region 19, and she was the representative for the Gifted and Talented program at Region 19. So lots of experience in the area of gifted. So we're excited to bring her on board. She's going to be starting with us within the next few weeks, and that way we can get that program up and going as well, and start being able to evaluate our students and provide some services for our students who are being referred and have been identified as gifted. Yes, ma'am. Any other questions?
I don't believe so. Thank you so much.
Thank you all
ladies.
so much.
Okay, and then finally, our last discussion item is 11F, monthly budget report for the month ending July 31st, 2024. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Martinez will present this item.
Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey. I am here for the discussion item of the monthly budget report for July 30th, 2024. Our operational fund revenues were about 14 million or 8.6% of budgeted revenues. Our expenditures were 6 million. About 6 million, which represent 2.79 of budgeted expenditures. As of July 31st, 2024, operational cash balance before loans was $74.2 million after temporary loans of 6.8. That cash balance was reduced to $67.4 million. As of July 31st, the PED and other grant agencies owed the district approximately $5.8 million for grant fund expenditures and $103,000 for student nutrition. Total revenues for all funds were $24.8 million. Total expenditures for all funds were $8.8 million. Direct instruction plus encumbrances out of the operational fund were approximately 60.62% of total operational fund expenditures. As of July 31st, all bank accounts were in compliance with a pledge collateral requirements. Any questions?
Any questions? Go ahead.
One request.
Sure.
In trying to access this file, it was very blurred.
It was what?
Blurred.
Oh, blurred.
Couldn't see the number. I don't know if it was scanned in or if it was created, or maybe we need something. But it was just very difficult to read. These printouts that we received today on some of the supporting documents are very, very clear. But I mean, it's just, I zoomed in that thing and I couldn't see some
Okay.
numbers. But it could be addressed, so that we could actually see numbers.
Okay. Yeah, I can take a look at that
Okay,
and
thank
make sure that it's clear. Questions?
Okay. Thank you for your presentation, Mel. Have a good evening. Okay, moving on to our next agenda item is upcoming board meetings and events. And I don't usually read them out, Mr. Morales, because we it's just listed. I would just remind you that if you do want to attend the National School Board Association National Conference, which is going to be next year, April 4th through 6th, please let Mary Lou know so that she can make those arrangements so that she can meet, hopefully still like the early bird registration. Okay, and then just keep that in mind so that you can plan accordingly, and that's for all of us, so we can plan accordingly to attend these events. I know that I do take, right? I think also Claudia, I think we all do, when we are recognized, for attending, and we even get little pins, for attending. I take great pride in that, so it's important. And like Mr. Castillo said, it's important for us to be educated because, we make decisions for the district, And so we have to be responsible for our professional development as well. Okay. Moving on to our next item, which is our closed session. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we enter into closed session, limited personnel matters pursuant to 10-15-1 H2 of the Open Meetings Act, NMSA 1978, as amended for superintendents and associate superintendents report on employees on administrative leave with pay, employee grievances, and employee hiring decisions. Ms. Delgado, can you please take roll call so that we can see we can enter into closed session? Aye.
Mr. Morales? Ms. Murillo?
Aye.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Aye.
Okay. That vote is unanimous. We are now in closed session. Thank you, folks. Have a good evening. Be safe.